and then maybe to move out of California, depending what goes on. So, but I can't do anything right now. I'm stuck.
So Dallas, it's time to get started, right?
Oh yeah.
So,
Only 4? Gee, I was trying to hide.
all right. So welcome to this morning's webinar. And it's for those of you who have been following Aero and Marine Tax Professionals for quite a while. This is going to be an unusual webinar. We're not going to talk about airplanes. Well, we kind of are. We're not going to talk about taxes. I met Hope Zavara at a meeting of Grant Cardone licensees, and she has a website called Mother Truckers Yoga, I think is what it's called. And I was listening to her talk about her business, and I realized that applies to pilots too. So I arranged for her to come do a presentation for what she does and what she's going to do for all of you. And those of you who are on watching the live stream, you're all welcome. Hope's going to make sure that you have her phone number and a way to contact her. And if you lose it, contact me. We'll be glad to refer you to you because Hope's one of my new favorite people. So Hope, take it away.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Tom. I so appreciate you, and being able to meet you was just kind of like, when the stars align and you just meet people for a reason. And well, this has brought me here today. Now, yes, I own a company called Mother Trucker Yoga. You did hear that right. You can laugh, you can snicker. It's okay. That's all part of it. But I actually didn't get my start in trucking. I am a recovering addict. And so I found yoga when I was knee deep in an eating disorder, drugs and alcohol, struggling with depression, anxiety, and kind of just did the checklist of all the things that you're supposed to do to get better, to get help, and nothing was really working. And then a colleague, I was actually working as a lifeguard at the time, and a swim instructor looked at me and said, "You look like somebody that would practice yoga." And full disclosure, I think that was the first time I ever heard the word yoga in my entire life. But I went home, I was still living at home at the time. I said, "Hey mom, I think I want to practice yoga." So we found a local yoga class about 20 minutes away. I live in rural Wisconsin. And that Wednesday night yoga class became my weekly ritual of second chances. I kept coming back over and over and over again. And although I did not know what I was doing, I was shaky in every single pose. I was inhaling when I was supposed to be exhaling. I would walk out of the door after every single class, and like clockwork, I go in with a busy mind, racing thoughts and just feeling this overwhelm with life. But I would walk out completely clear, completely calm, completely at ease. And that was the first time in years I had felt that, and I was hooked. And eventually I was, going to these yoga classes. And then my teacher looked at me one day and said, "You look like somebody that should teach yoga." And in college, I was like, okay. And I went home and I thought, I'm going to take a yoga class. I'm going to take a teacher training. And that's what I did. I flew out to Colorado and I took a 30-day training, and I showed up for this training. I knew nothing about teaching yoga. And the next thing I know, I'm teaching yoga. And I taught yoga for a couple of years. And one of the things I noticed was that showing up at these yoga classes was as much therapy for other people as it was for me. And as I stepped into recovery, I started recognizing that other people were also dealing with many of the things I was dealing with, not just mental challenges, mental anxiety, depression, but also physical pain. I had sciatica for 9 months, and I thought, is this how my life is going to be? I'm in my 20s and I'm physically in pain. This is not supposed to be this way. But then I started recognizing that other people were struggling with the same things that I was. And I just continued down this path. And eventually I opened a yoga studio, a state approved vocational school, teaching yoga to other teachers. And after about 15 years, like many of us, we get burnt out doing something. And I was looking for more. And then I met a guy. No, I'm happily married. This isn't a pickup line. I met a guy at a local event, and I'm trying to pitch him corporate yoga. And he looks at me and says, "Do you have anything for truck drivers, like in the cab of the truck?" And I think I'm funny sometimes. And I threw up my hands and I was like, "Mother Trucker Yoga," just trying to get a rise out of this guy. He looked at me and said, "That's brilliant." Stuck out his hand and said, "Do you want to go into business together?" And we shook on it. And the next morning he called me up and said, "Hey, partner, are we going to do this?" And in 4 months, we built a business from scratch. And a year later, I bought him out of the business. And that was 4 years ago. And now I'm here today. I believe that it's the small, simple changes that lead to the big results in our lives. Whether you are an everyday person, you're a truck driver, or you're a pilot, it's the small little things when implemented correctly that lead to the big results we're looking for in our lives. And for the last 20 years, I have helped thousands of people in pain, just like you, improve their lives with these tiny little strategies. I call it your toolbox. How many tools do you have in your toolbox right now that help you improve your health? Today, over the next 30 minutes, I want to help add to that toolbox. And I'm going to teach you what you need to know to fly into better health. We're going to discuss your body's blueprint, what that is and how to improve it. We're going to talk about how to eliminate back pain in minutes a day. We're going to discuss how to improve your energy levels without quick fixes, without energy drinks, without all that garbage and junk. And then finally, what you can do when you can't sleep. And no, don't blame it on age. I'm going to give you some strategies that you can start implementing today to improve your health. All right, let's get started. So number one, your body's blueprint. You maybe didn't know this, but your body does have a blueprint. What I'm talking about is your body's postural blueprint. Everyone else is telling you in order to improve your health, in order to get fit, in order to reduce back pain, all that stuff, you need to exercise. I'm telling you that exercise will never work until you first understand how you're just supposed to be living in this body of yours on a daily basis. And so I actually wrote a book called Trucking Yoga, Simple Fitness for the Long Haul. And inside the book, we have a whole chapter dedicated to postural health. But I want to go over what are some of the things you can do today to start checking in with your posture and what that would look like and what that would feel like. So I'm actually going to do a screen share here really quick so that you guys can get a little bit of a better feel for what it is we're talking about. And let's see here. There we go. Awesome. So your posture, I call it your body's blueprint. This is how you move around during the day. This is how you sit, how you stand. I don't care if you're in the cockpit flying a plane, if you're on the couch watching Netflix, or you're standing in line at the grocery store. Your posture really dictates how you move and feel throughout the day. And nobody's talking about it. Nobody's focusing on it until today, right now. And so what is your blueprint look like? Well, before we fix our posture or talk about good posture, we have to know what bad posture looks like. So this is actually a graphic from the book. And so when we think about bad posture, where do you self-identify? Do you look more like the leaner, where you're always kind of cocked to the side? Maybe you're sitting always over to one side, your left or right hip, or when you're standing in line at the gas station or in the grocery store, you're always off to one hip. For women, I see this a lot. You know, they carry children, they had grocery, but whatever it is, and they no longer have that child to carry, or they're no longer holding a laundry basket, but they're still leaning and standing like that. And so are you a leaner? Or maybe you're a forward head gawker. Whether you're sitting in the cockpit, you're sitting behind the steering wheel in your car, or even you're reading a book or sitting on the couch, this forward head position really wreaks havoc on that upper back and neck. And so maybe you're struggling with headaches and you can't seem to figure out why. Maybe your jaw and your neck are always strained. Maybe you grind your teeth at night and your dentist is like, oh, you should get a bite guard. Well, the bite guard isn't going to fix why you're grinding your teeth. Maybe it's your posture. Or maybe you're a belly dropper. And the belly dropper is the one where you're kind of walking around with your front abdomen kind of spilled forward. We see this a lot with people that carry a lot of extra weight. Sometimes we see this with people either pregnancy or post-pregnancy, but this creates a lot of tension in the lower back. So if you came onto this webinar because you're like, man, I have back pain and I don't know how to get rid of it, it could be your posture. And until you fix your posture, there's no exercise that's going to help with that. Maybe you're the flat back booty tucker. I see this a lot in men, where it kind of looks like you go from your back to your belt to your pant pockets to the backs of your legs, and it's kind of all one straight line. And this can create a lot of strain and pain around that lower back area, but also in the front hip flexor area. If you do a lot of sitting, I work with truck drivers, but a lot of you have the similar issues and challenges as a pilot. You're stuck in a small seat for a long amount of time. There's a lot of sitting, there's a lot of downtime. And so our posture is reflecting what it is we do throughout the day. And then finally, the military soldier. And so my dad was in the military, and we always joked as kids because he told us the exact same thing his dad told him, which was stand up straight, shoulders back. And we kind of puff our chest out unnaturally, which can create a lot of shoulder and upper back pain. And then finally, I call it the non-pregnancy pelvic leaner. You're not pregnant. Maybe you've never been pregnant, but we still are standing, thrusting our hips forward. And the reason for that is because you don't have the strength in your glutes, in your legs, and in your core to hold your upper body upright. So we thrust our bones forward to make that happen. Now, you might be looking at this and thinking, wow, well, that's a lot. Well, the good news is we have more information in our book, but this just gives you an idea of where you might fall, because we can't fix something that we don't know what's broken. We don't know what's actually going on. And I want to help you do just that. And so when we think about our postures blueprint, let's see if we can actually get this to go forward here. Why can't we get this here? Let's try to see if we can fix this. No. Why is this not moving forward? All right. You got to love Zoom, right? Because sometimes it just doesn't want to do what you want to do. Well, maybe just keep it like this, because then that way at least you guys can see it a little bit better and we can move the screen better. All right. So what does good posture look like? What does good posture look like? And we're just going to kind of move through this a little bit as a cliff notes, but I want you to think about these things throughout the day today. And so first, what do your feet look like? Rule of thumb, if you're going forward, your feet should be pointing forward. When you get up after this webinar, pay attention when you're standing in your kitchen or you're in the bathroom or you're just walking down the hallway. What direction are your feet pointing? If you have knee pain, this is a recipe for strain for a very long time if your feet aren't moving in the same direction as you are moving. And so first things first, when you're standing, when you're walking, pay attention to your feet moving forward. You might notice muscles turning on that haven't turned on. You might notice different twinges or tweaks in your legs and in your body that you haven't felt before because your body isn't used to moving the way it's designed. We are an adaptation to our environment over time. I don't care if you're an accountant, if you're a truck driver, if you're a pilot, if you're a school teacher, whoever you are, we are constantly adapting to our environment. And if we can't change our environment, like you can't change that you have to sit in the cockpit. You can't change the fact that you have to drive your car to work. You can't change the fact that, this is how you have to be in this environment during the day. But you can choose to change how you move in that environment. And so first of all, again, which direction are your feet facing? Second is our knees. When we think about our knees, a lot of people complain they have bad knees, but I want you to think about your knees as directionals, not the front of the knee, but the back of the knee. If you've ever seen someone in a pair of shorts and you look at the backs of their legs, there's these two vertical lines, and those vertical lines are little directionals. They should be pointing straight back. But for many of us, they're pointing out to the sides or one's in and one's out. And so pay attention to the directionals on your knees. Which direction are they facing? As we work our way up to the pelvis and the thighs, I'm going to share with you a quick little trick that you can do. And if you can still see me in the little bubble, next time you're standing, I want you to grab your thighs, okay? My feet are forward, and rotate them externally. And the second you rotate your thighs out, you're going to feel your glute muscles kind of squeeze and engage. And so that is good leg alignment. You can practice this standing. You don't need to use your hands to do that. You can do this when you're standing, talking to anybody like they'll never know. You can be in the grocery line at the grocery store, and you can be rolling your thighs out while you're waiting for the person in front of you at the self-checkout. Like you still have to wait in line even with the self-checkout nowadays. And you can roll your thighs out, and now your glutes are going to kick in. Now your legs are going to be better aligned. You're like using your muscles without ever having to step foot in a gym. Pretty cool. And so as we move our way up the body, think about your pelvis. Is your pelvis level? Is it tipped forward? Is it tipped back? See if you can find a happy medium. When you're sitting in the cockpit in the seat, pay attention if your spine rounds back or drops forward. How is your pelvis sitting? Is it level? Is it even? See if you can start to make those self-adjustments. You may notice that you need to adjust your seat. Maybe you need a seat support. One of the products I love is Back Shield, and you can use it right in the cockpit. I recommend it to my drivers. 5 years, they tested it in Mayo Clinic. It's one of the best back supports I've ever seen. It's called Back Shield. And so I can definitely get you guys the information about that, but game changer when it comes to good posture while sitting. And as you keep working your way up your body, pay attention to your ribs. Are they splayed out? Are they sunken forward? If you're someone like me that has struggled with anxiety and depression, a big portion of that is the inability to take a deep breath. And so if you're slouched forward all the time and you can't take a deep breath, it's no wonder you feel the way that you do. Maybe you don't need medication. Maybe all you need is better posture. All you need is better posture to facilitate better breathing. These are simple strategies that are available to us all that we're just not using. I want to share with you a quick little strategy to help you open up the shoulders, and you can use this anywhere. And so if you're sitting right now listening to me, as long as you're not driving, okay, don't do this if you're driving, because we want you to keep your hands on the wheel. So you're going to bring your arms up in front and plug your shoulders back. So if I turn sideways here, I'm hunched. I'm going to plug my shoulders back. Now you are the strongest person on the planet. You're going to grab the stick in front of you and you're going to break the stick. And as you break the stick, your forearms and your palms face up and your shoulders drop down. So you kind of should feel like, oh, it opens and everything kind of plugs down, and then drop your arms down to your sides. You can check in with this throughout the day while you're in the plane, while you're driving in your car, while you're sitting at your kitchen table, having dinner. Now you can break the stick with your whole family if you want, but this idea of staying open is not just for our physical health, it's really for our mental and our emotional health as well. This is all connected. And then finally, our head, neck, and eyes. We live in a culture that walks around with our devices in our hands, which does create a lot of strain and pain in the head, neck, and shoulders. And for every inch your head is forward of your shoulders, it puts 20 pounds of pressure on your neck. What if those headaches? What if that jaw clenching? What if that strain? What if that twinge in your shoulder blade has nothing to do with anything except for the fact that you're carrying that big bowling ball around on your shoulders all day in the wrong place? Every single one of the things I just talked about right now are 100% fixable, and they cost $0. $0. Now, the next step from here would be, what are some corrective movements that we can do to continue to support good posture? But none of that matters until you first implement this. Al Loffer is a friend of mine. I went to school with his kids. He lives in my town here, and he's a pilot. He owns a trucking company as well, but he's a pilot as well. He's like 6'7". He's a big dude. And he was always complaining of his neck and shoulders. Now, when he first learned I opened Mother Trucker Yoga, he always just was like, oh, Hope, like he would just kind of giggle at me. But then come to find out, he was having these shoulder issues and these back issues that just weren't going away. And he couldn't figure out what was going on. And a lot had to do with how he was sitting, not just in his vehicle and at his computer, but also when he was flying, how he was sitting in the cockpit, how he was positioning his body, how he was carrying his head and shoulders. And having a 5-minute conversation with him about what we just talked about completely changed how it was he was feeling in his upper back. And that chiropractic visit felt less like a revolving door and became more of a maintenance. And so maybe you're like Al, where you just have these issues and you don't know where they're coming from, and you're doing things, but it doesn't seem to be working. maybe it's time you start to look at how you carry yourself around in your everyday life. And so that's your body's blueprint, and you can fix it. You can do things to help yourself in the driver's seat, in the cockpit, while you're standing, wherever you are. You can pay attention to this. Pick one body part that you want to enhance. All right. And so the next thing I want to talk about is how to eliminate back pain for good. And when it comes to back pain, more than 80% of Americans have had or currently have back pain, specifically chronic pain, which means it's happening more than regularly. So if on a scale of 7 days, you're having back pain 5 out of those 7 days. It's just random. You can't figure out why it happens. You wake up with it. Sometimes pain is just stiffness. Like you just feel stiff. And then I hear this a lot. It's just because I'm old. It's not because you're old, okay? It's because you're not moving your body the way it's designed to. And so let's take inventory. From the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed, how many times do you move? How many times do you reach up overhead? Like your arm actually reaches up overhead. How many times do you squat down? How many times do you twist your body full rotation? How many times do you extend backwards? How many times do you bend forward? 1, 2, maybe 10 if you're lucky. If exercise was going to solve our problems, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And so I want you to take inventory of how much you move throughout the day. And the less we move, the more our tissues stiffen. There's a man by the name of Dr. Gil Hidley, and he talks about it as the fuzz. And so every single night when we go to bed, there's a layer of fuzz that comes over our tissues, specifically our fascia. And if we don't wake up in the morning and move, I don't care if it's a minute, if it's 2 minutes, if it's 5 minutes, whatever it is, or you go to the gym. If we don't melt the fuzz every single day that we don't do that, that fuzz like builds and builds and builds. If you ever gone into a closet before that no one stepped into for years, there's like a layer of dust. That's your body. It's not age. That's why we hear people that are like 102 running a marathon, right? Because they're melting their fuzz every single day. That's why we see people that sometimes are twice our age, and it's like they're doing all these crazy things, and it's like, wow, how do you do that? Because they're melting their fuzz every day. It's not exercise, it's movement. And so this all tailors back to back pain as well. We are living in a very sedentary culture. Sitting is the new smoking. And as a pilot, you spend a lot of time sitting. And even though you may be in the air and you're kind of forced to be in that cockpit, you're probably spending a lot of time sitting even when you're not in the air. Sitting around and waiting. We can change that. Okay, so what can we do while we're in the pilot seat? This is the same things that I teach drivers and other pilots just like you. These are things that you can be doing today to improve your health and your wellness and help you eliminate back pain. This is called pelvic tilts. Now you can do this right in your seat right now. If you sit upright and you kind of sit towards the edge of your seat, I'm going to do this right along with you. I'll move back a little bit. Okay, we're going to do this right along with you. And so if you sit upright, now that already might be a little stiff for you, you can place your hands right on your thighs. And when you take a big breath in, I want you to arch your back, squeeze your shoulders together, arch your back, and think about your tailbone pointing to the chair behind you. Now for me, I do notice that that is a little tweaky. It's a little stiff down in my lower lumbar. I was just on a webinar right before here for 3 hours this morning, and I was right in front of the computer. And then from here, you're going to round your back, tuck your tailbone, and kind of pull your shoulders together. And you're going to repeat this, inhaling when you arc, like there's a needle behind you. Exhale, push the needle into the chair. And you're going to repeat this 5 to 7 times, 10 times for a minute. You can do this while you're sitting in the cockpit. You can do this while you're flying. You can do this while you're driving to the grocery store. You can do this while you're sitting watching your favorite Netflix show. We have to stop separating exercise or healthy movement from our everyday life. Stop putting it in a box and saying, I'm only healthy when I do this at this time in these yoga pants, in this location with these shoes on. This is really how we maintain good health, specifically how we eliminate back pain, because that fuzz builds and builds and builds if we don't move it. And so where is it that you can add pelvic tilts into your everyday life? I often encourage my clients to plug it into their phone, set a timer that's going to go off every single day, every hour. Make it a different sound than what your normal alarm is, like a bird chirping or something like that, where it kind of jars you out of the everyday grind, where it's like, oh, movement every hour, every 30 minutes, and just do something just like this, pelvic tilts, where you're going to do 3, 4, 5, 10, whatever it is to help you stay mobile in your body. Now, if you're having lower back pain and doing a move like this, it's like, whew, wow, yeah, I can really feel that. Imagine the organs on the other side of you, never getting moved and squished and squeezed and twisted and turned for them to help do what they're supposed to be doing. Long-term sitting, we lack blood flow in our legs. A move like this helps bring more blood flow back down to the lower body. There are so many things going on in our body that we don't even realize. And so where can you add a movement like pelvic tilts into your life to help reduce back pain? The second move I want to talk to you about is one of my favorites, and it's called figure 4 stretch. If you have back or hip pain, this is the number one thing I want you to do. If you do anything off of this webinar, do this move every single day. And so it looks just as simple as it is. Simple meaning it's not fancy or complicated, okay? I'm actually gonna swap out my chair. So if you're watching me in the little screen too, all you're gonna do is take your chair. You can do this in the cockpit as well. My drivers do this right in the driver's seat. You're gonna take your leg and cross it up onto your other knee. Now this action of lifting the leg and rotating the leg out might be enough of a challenge in and of itself. It's like, hope this hurts. No, it doesn't hurt. The fuzz is just very stiff. Okay, you haven't done this in a while. And so can I bring my leg up to my knee? Maybe you have to support it on a stool to start. So this is step 1. Step 2, flex the foot. Flex the foot and sit tall. Step 3, gently press on the thigh and just start to lean forward. If you want to open up the gateway of your hip and lower back, this is the move to do. If you wake up in the morning and you're like, give me a second, you know, I feel like the Tin Man, or you get out of your vehicle and you're like, okay, just a second, let me just kind of like get my body back into position. You need this move. You absolutely have to add this move into your daily regimen. Now, it might be painful. It might be stiff. Okay. It's just because you haven't done it before. So if you have back pain, where can you add this into your everyday life? If it looks something like myself or something like my drivers do, I recommend that they do this in the morning. Get up, slide over on the side of your bed and do this. When they're sitting down at lunch, because you're somewhere where you're sitting in a chair, right? They can do this. And then before they go to bed at night, they can do this. If your body is waking you up when you sleep at night, we're going to talk about that in a little bit. This is a great move to help keep that pain at bay. So where can you add in a move called figure 4 stretch? This is in our book called Trekking Yoga. And this also is in our platform called our Lifestyle Jumpstart. And so this is where we have a video database of more than 200 videos, 5 minutes or less, showing people just like you what you can do to stay fit on the go. That's not complicated, doesn't require you to have, you know, an exercise outfit or access to a gym. It's lifestyle movements just like this. And so from our hip and hamstring, from eliminating back pain, where can we add these 2 movements into our everyday life? One of the other big questions I get a lot from people who travel is, how do I improve my energy? We live in a culture and in a world right now of convenience, of processed foods, of energy drinks, of all that stuff, where we're always grabbing for quick fixes. And I tend to work with people, mainly men, that are right between the ages of like 50 and 65. That's mainly my clientele that I work with. And energy is a big issue, is a big challenge. And there's a small window of time where we can start to implement these strategies and really start to see the turnaround before there's negative consequences. There's long-term consequences to how we feel on a daily basis. And if you're blaming age, if you're blaming your job, if you're blaming, the fact that, your bed isn't good for the reason why you don't have the energy that you have, there may be some really easy fixes that you can implement today to get you back to feeling as good as you want to feel, as good as you deserve to feel. And so the first thing is if you don't have energy, are you dehydrated? Now, you've probably heard people talk about this before. Drink water, drink water, drink water, super important. But do you really know what's at stake when you're dehydrated? I believe in what I've seen over the last 20 years working with thousands of people in pain is the number one reason why they physically and mentally feel the way they do is because they're dehydrated. Their tissues, their organ, your brain is simply dehydrated. That 3 p.m. brain fog where you just kind of feel fatigued, kind of like spacey, you're not tired, you're dehydrated. Why your back pain just doesn't seem to go away. Maybe you're doing the movements I taught you. It's not the movement's fault. You're just dehydrated. And so what can we do to help improve our hydration levels so that we can feel good for the long haul? Well, first things first is when you get up in the morning, the number one strategy you can implement when it comes to hydration, anybody, all walks of life, is right away when you get up in the morning, drink 8 to 20 ounces of water. I have a mason jar right next to my bed. For my truck drivers, they don't usually have a mason jar. They usually have a water bottle, but you have ready to go. So the night before, you're setting yourself up for success. You're going to put it right on your nightstand, full and ready to go. Now, if you feel like, well, I don't like the taste of water, Hope. Well, good news is your taste buds change. But also the reality of sometimes we have to do things that we don't want to do. And this might be one of them. And so can you commit to 7 days, waking up every single morning and drinking 8 to 20 ounces of water? You may not like it. You may not want to, but you know what I also don't like and don't want is to be having something put in me, giving me an IV, is to have the doctor tell me my kidneys are shutting down for no other reason other than they're not getting the hydration and the fluids that they need. To have random health issues that could have been avoided if I would have been hydrating my body. So many health ailments come back to the fact that we're just simply not hydrated. And so 7 days, give me 7 days drinking that 8 to 20 ounces of water in the morning, then come back and tell me how you feel. You might notice things like stiffness, foggy brain fog, energy levels, and just overall mental fatigue start to diminish, start to reduce simply by doing something that costs you $0. $0. Water, you just turn on your tap and you drink it, and you get to reap the benefits. Now, when it comes to pilots, there is a challenge because you're up in the air. You might have limited resources. Maybe your plane doesn't have a bathroom. Like, what do I do with this? I don't want to be peeing all the time. My drivers are always telling me, oh, I can't drink water because then I'm going to have to stop all the time. And if I stop, then I'm trading, time for dollars. And our body will always adjust. So when you drink water right away in the morning, your body takes about an hour, about 60 minutes to process and move that water through. It also helps you if you're more constipated, which is something that a lot of my drivers struggle with. It helps move that through. So you're going to become more regular. You're going to be happier. I don't know anyone that's not happy when they're feeling really good when it comes to their belly and their bowels. And so committing to that water can have a lasting effect on your body. You can do a little dehydration test with me. Take your finger. You can see in the camera, you're going to take your finger, and right where your knuckle is, you're going to pinch. And when you pinch that, if the little pinch you have stays raised for 10 seconds, you're dehydrated. If the pinch drops down almost immediately, you're well hydrated. You can also do this on your arm. You can pinch your arm, and if you can pull that top layer of skin off where it's not thick under your fingers, you're well hydrated. If when you pinch, it's like you can't get a thin pinch, then you're probably dehydrated. So our skin, our body doesn't lie. You can test this for yourself and you can see right away where it is you fall on the dehydration meter. So commit to that water. And if you're in it for the long haul, ideally, we want to be drinking half our body weight in ounces, half our body weight. So if you're, let's just say 200 pounds, that's 100 ounces. But if you break it up through the day, it's a lot less scary. If you get that 20 ounces right in the morning, you're already a fourth of the way there. Doesn't seem that big and that scary anymore. So chunk it down, break it down. But no matter what, I want you to get that water in first thing in the morning. The second thing that I want to talk about when it comes to energy levels, if you're not moving enough, that can be a big reason why you are tired, fatigued, and have zero energy at the end of the day. And I'm actually going to stop my screen share for a second here. And I want to show you here with 2 glasses of water. And so this is you, okay? This is you full of water. This is you, your body as a glass of water. And if throughout the day, you don't exert any energy, you don't use your glass of water at all, because we live a very sedentary culture. We sit a lot, we don't move a lot, we're not as active. We may be mentally fatigued, but if we don't physically exert ourselves throughout the day, we haven't emptied our glass of water. How is it the next day we can fill our glass back up? Where are we pouring this water into to then refill it? So how is it that you can add more movement into your day? These are all connected, you guys. Everything I'm talking about today feeds one into the next. If you don't burn calories, there's nothing that you are replacing. If you don't exert yourself, you're going to bed with a full tank of gas. No wonder you're not sleeping, which is what we're going to talk about next. Because you don't need any replacing. You may be physically or you may be mentally fatigued, but are you physically fatigued? I hear this a lot from my drivers. They get in after a long run. They've just drove 500 miles and they're like, I'm exhausted. I'm like, are you? But are you? You may be mentally exhausted from paying attention to the road, but you haven't done anything physically. And so I want to encourage you to get up and get moving. Empty your tank, empty your cup, so that when you go to bed at night, you have something to refill. This is really just basic physics, you guys, like just one into the next. And I'm not saying that you have to go out and run a marathon, you have to get a gym membership, but like, what about walking? What about when you're waiting to take off again and you have an hour, 2 hours, 6 hours, however long it is? Walk around your plane, walk around, the area that you have, walk around town, do some of the movements that I suggested to you. We have a whole platform of movements made just for people just like you who travel, but you have to empty your cup if you want to be able to fill it when you go to sleep at night. And so how are you exerting yourself? How are you exhausting yourself? And you know if you're doing this, if when you lay down to bed at night, and you've had this happen to you, I'm sure, and you're like, like it just feels so good to lay down, that's how you know you emptied your cup. And when you lay down and your mind is busy and you're fidgety and you're moving around and you can't seem to get comfortable, you didn't empty your cup. Your body is trying to tell you something. Your body has a built-in alarm system for pain and for situations like this to say, hey, pay attention. Hey, please listen. Hey, can you please fix this for me? And we don't listen and we don't listen and we don't listen. And so the last thing I want to talk about today is sleep, is what to do when you can't sleep. And so before you reach for the melatonin, for the CBD, before you reach for, the fancy ergonomic pillow, thinking that'll fix my problems, before you do any of that, and I'm not saying any of that is bad, because when implemented correctly, it can be very effective in a short-term run. It can help you get over the hump. But if we're expecting those things to fix our sleep problem, we may be gravely disappointed when we find that it's a revolving door. that at the end of the day, nothing changes. And I don't want that to be you. And so the first thing we want to look at when it comes to sleep, when it comes to improving our sleep, is what we just talked about. Are you emptying your cup? How have you physically exerted yourself throughout the day? Have you physically exerted yourself? Make it a point to get up and move around. Make it a point to wiggle your body, to roll your shoulders. I don't care what it is, it all counts. It all counts. If in your mind you're still thinking that it has to be a certain way, I'm here to tell you that that's not true. And so it all adds up. And so how is it that we can empty our cup? Okay, so that's the first thing. How can we exert ourselves more? The second thing we want to look at when it comes to improving our sleep is, what is it that I can do to help my body relax? Maybe my mind is rampant. Maybe when I lay down, it's like, brrr, like all the thoughts come in like a database. And so use 2 to 3 minutes before you go to bed at night. I actually have a notepad right on my phone, and I just dictate notes to myself. You have to empty it in order for you to fill it at night. And your thoughts are the same way. Are you emptying your thoughts in order for you to have a better night's sleep? Many years ago, when diaries were popular, I get it now. I see why having a journal or a diary was so powerful, because it helps you get all that stuff out so it's not looming inside of you. Now, you don't have to have a diary, but you can download an app for Notepad and just get those things out. Even if you do nothing with them the next day, you've got to find a place for them. And so exert energy, exert your thoughts, get rid of your thoughts. The third thing that you can do to help improve your sleep is when we're looking at our physical body. Sometimes our physical body needs to wind down. And when we go to bed at night, a lot of us are still carrying a lot of tension in our neck and shoulders. And so I want to show you a really simple neck and shoulder release that you can do before you go to bed at night that does wonders to help you fall asleep faster. And so you can do this right now, wherever it is you're sitting. You can actually do this throughout the day, anywhere that you are, especially if you find yourself struggling with neck and upper back and shoulder pain. And so first things first, you're going to sit nice and tall. Okay, you're going to sit nice and tall, and you're just going to drop your chin to your shoulders. And as you do that, interlace the fingers at the base of your skull. It's called your occipital bone, and press your head down into your hands. And as you do that, press your head back up into your hands. And what you should feel is like your whole neck kind of open up. Now you can ever so slightly tip your chin to the right or to the left, and you'll probably notice right away which side of your neck carries more tension. You may also find that that is also the side you like to sleep on. Like if you're a side sleeper and you're like, woo, my neck on my right side, or if that's the side you mouse with, if you're at a computer, or when you drive, you always have that arm upright, or if you're a leaner, that's always the side that you lean to. You may notice that a lot of those things kind of lace together. So that's part one, is you're going to do a downward press. Part two is you're going to do a side neck release. And that's going to be as simple as dropping your ear to one shoulder. So I'm dropping my ear to my left shoulder, and then take your right hand and press down through the heel of the right hand, like you're trying to pull that opposite shoulder away, and then take your free hand and gently pull the head away. I can feel this. This is like stretching the turtleneck. And if I turn my head down or I turn my head up, if I move my arm forward or I move it back, I'm trying to create space between the ear and the shoulder. You don't need to wear your shoulders as earrings. They're not a good look. And so notice where it is you're carrying more tension. If this feels like a ripping feeling, you're doing it right. That's your fascia. That's that stiff fuzz tissue I was talking about. You got to break that up. We got to turn that from plastic into elastic. And then slowly bring your head back up, and we got to do the other side. I don't want to leave you lopsided. That would be mean of me. And so reach out through the heel of the hand, and then same thing again, pay attention to where that shoulder is. Gently move your body to see if you can find those areas of tension and stiffness. And if you find yourself a little resistant to this, my question for you is, if not this, then what? If not this, what is your plan? What's your solution? and then slowly bring your head back up. The last one, which is my favorite. Okay. And so if you have upper back and neck tension, if when you sleep at night, you're clenching your jaw, you're grinding your teeth, like you're just having a lot of those challenges, this is an amazing little routine to do right before you go to bed. And so the last part of it though is my favorite. I'm going to turn sideways. So you're going to take your hands and you're going to place them right where your clavicles are. There's this bone right here. It's a floating bone. And you're going to take your hands. And if you have a shirt on, that's fine. You can just do it right over your shirt. You're going to pull down on that tissue. Like I'm pushing and pulling down. And you might feel like, well, that doesn't move very much. Okay. It's okay. So what you're going to do now is once you pull down, open your mouth. I'm going to talk, you're going to do. So you're going to open your mouth. And then once you've opened your mouth, tip your head back. And when your head can't go back any farther, close your mouth and push your bottom jaw to the sky and see if you can reach the chin to the ceiling and maybe even try sliding your jaw side to side. So you're feeling this extreme tightness through the front of the neck. Like this is so tight and so restricted. No wonder your head is being forward of your shoulders. And so you're going to hold that for 10 seconds, 20 seconds. Don't do this while you're driving, of course. And then when you're ready, bring your head back up to center. What you should notice is your shoulders feel lower. You feel more open. Now there's blood flow and lymphatic flow up through the neck. Like we have major arteries and major nerve endings and major lymphatic ports all through our neck. And when this is super tight, we restrict that flow. Now we have weird, mysterious illnesses that we can't figure out where they came from. Well, part of the challenge is because all those little pathways are compressed. The same is true in your lower back, in your hip, in your shoulder, in your elbow. We have to move our body so our body can do what it's set up to do. And then the last thing, when it comes to challenges with sleep. So we've talked about emptying your tank, showed you a simple stretch to have alleviate some of that tension when you go to bed at night, about how to expel your thoughts. And the last thing that I want to share with you when it comes to going to sleep at night and how to stay asleep at night is what's called the Chinese body rhythm or the body chart. So we have a clock, okay? We have a clock. Our body has a clock. And every hour of the day, actually every 2 hours of the day, our body is doing something that we have no idea it's even doing. Like from 2 to 4 p.m., our gallbladder is cleansing itself. From 4 to 6 p.m., our liver is cleansing itself. So our body is constantly doing these things that we're completely oblivious to. And for many of us, we suffer from a constant need to be snacking or late night eating or constantly munching on things. And the problem with that is when we go to bed at night, specifically from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., our body is in what's called rest and digest mode. That means our body, our organs are cleansing themselves. They're doing all the things that they need to do for you to be healthy, happy, and functioning the next day. But if we eat a heavy meal late at night, if we're snacking at 10 p.m. right before we go to bed, if we like down an energy drink, late in the evening, our body now has to tend to all of those things instead of do what it's designed to do. So if we're eating really late at night, our body has to choose, digest the food, restore and repair the kidneys and gallbladder, digest the food, allow the brain to be fed and nourished and rested, digest the food or deal with these other things. And so if we want to look at when we're eating and how much we're eating in relationship to our body resting and digesting at night, this can be a big reason why we can't sleep at night, because our body is awake digesting food instead of repairing organs. But it also can be a big culprit to why you wake up in the morning and you're groggy, you're sluggish, you're tired, because your body didn't do what it was supposed to do. It's off schedule. And so there's a reason why breakfast is spelt break fast, because break fast is designed for you to break the fast. Now, I'm not going to talk about intermittent fasting and you only eating in an 8-hour window and all that. Like, we don't need that. We don't need that. But what I am suggesting is for you to consider a small window of time where you give your body every single night consistently time to rest and digest, even if it's just 8 hours. Even if it's just 8 hours where I'm not going to eat anything, maybe 10 hours, ideally 12 hours is what we want, but we can start small and just let your body do what it's designed to do. That's the beauty of the human body. We already know what we need to do. We have just kind of adapted to our environment, just kind of developed bad habits. But the good news is we can change any of those today. You can change any of those today. And so one of the most common questions I get is, Hope, how can I take this further? Like, what's the next step? After I implement these things, like, where do I go from here? And the answer is really a couple of things, that you can decide to take that next step with me, and you can join our Mother Trucker Yoga Lifestyle Jumpstart platform and app. Yeah, we have an app. And so you can access more than 200 videos, downloads, and audios at any given time. So that just with a touch of a button, you can start doing some of these stretches. You can start doing some of these things, implementing some of these strategies so that you can be healthy for the long haul, so that you can do your best and be your best no matter where you are. I'm going to do a quick screen share here. And there we go. And so for those of you on the webinar today, I'd love to invite you to join me inside our platform, inside the platform with people that travel just like you, whether you are a truck driver or a pilot, or maybe you work in an office. These are strategies that you can implement no matter where you are. And so we have 1-year access. That's typically how we work with people. That's available to you just for a low cost today of $99. But with that, I recognize that there are other tools and resources that you may also want to help bring this further, to help you implement this into your life. And that's where our book comes in. You don't have to be a truck driver. I want to tell you a secret. These moves, these strategies that I wrote in this book, that I brought into this book, are things everyday life people can do. These are the very strategies that I was teaching people just like you in pain, having all walks of life for years before I stepped into trucking. And so the driver's seat is the pilot's seat. It's your chair at home. It's your office chair at your desk. The sleeper is a bed, is a floor. And right outside the rig is when the stairs are down on your plane. It's your wall in your hallway. It's the bathroom stall. It's anywhere that you have a small amount of space and a few minutes a day. You can implement these strategies. And so as a bonus, I want to offer you our book. But also I want to give you a tool that you can utilize to help you fight that pain. So when you have back pain, when you have neck pain, and you need something fast, I created a pain relief cream called Stiff Mother Trucker. After using other people's pain relief creams for years, I recognized that there was always something missing with theirs. They usually used menthol as a main ingredient. They only had 1 active ingredient, where ours has 6. You had to reapply it regularly, or it just didn't really work. And so I was able to work with a formulator and come up with a formula that works for people just like you. And so that's an additional bonus gift for you for joining, for deciding that your health matters, that you want to take action today. And so that's the membership, that's the book, that's the cream, like all the tools you need to start taking back your health, one small, simple change at a time. And so I'm going to drop the link in the chat for you guys that you'll have access to that. I'll copy that and drop that in the chat. There we go. And feel free, just know that you can always ask questions if you have any questions about that. And then you'll get an email right after you join and sign up for access to the platform and all the videos. Everything is unlimited access. We add videos all the time, but more importantly, it's simple strategies designed just for you to help you deal with your biggest pain points and your biggest struggles when it comes to health and wellness. And so I just want to thank Tom for inviting me to this webinar today. And just know that there are things that you can do today to improve your health. Picture a day when you wake up in the morning and you have zero pain. Picture a day when your loved one says to you, "I'm so happy to see you taking care of yourself. It seems to be paying off." And picture a day when the world is at your fingertips, not just because you're a pilot flying high in the sky, because your health is your greatest asset that you own. That day can start today. I'll leave you with this. When I started Mother Trucker Yoga 4.5 years ago, I had no idea what I was stepping into. I just knew I had a heart to serve, and I wanted to help people that needed these strategies, that needed these tools. I watched my dad for years break his body for the job that he had. He was a sewer pipe layer. The guy 80 feet down in the hole doing things that the majority of the population would never want to do or even think to do. And because he didn't take care of his body over the years, I watched him slowly lose the physical ability to do the most basic things. At one point in his life, he was belly crawling to the porch to get out of the house because he refused to take care of himself. But good news is that you can make those changes. It's never too late. It's been about 10 years since that belly crawling episode with my dad crawling out onto the porch. And he finally realized that there were things that he can do, that it's never too late. My dad now walks 5 miles in our backwoods every single morning. He calls it his connection with nature and his conversation with God, but it's really him moving his body. He now does small little things like rolls his shoulders and does the neck stretches. He's got a lot of issues with his body, but he's found what he can do to preserve what he has left. And if he could go back, I know he would do things differently. Don't wait. You deserve to live a healthy life, one that you can love waking up to every day. You deserve to live a healthy life, one that gives you more opportunities as you age. And you deserve to live a healthy life, one that gets you enjoying every minute from the air to being on the ground. Join me and let's get you that healthy life that you deserve. Thank you.
So, Hope, can you hear me?
I can.
We're having some problems with the link. So,
Oh, here, let me give you the full link. Hold on a second. Sometimes that when you shorten them down, they get wonky.
Yes, thank you.
There we go. There's the full one.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Awesome.
Dallas, can you capture that and email it to everybody that's on here just as a double check to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to take advantage of this really, really great offer from a really great lady?
Well, thank you so
This
much.
one still doesn't work.
What? Hold on a second.
Well, when I
Hold
click
on.
on it, it doesn't.
Hold on. Oh, I see why. Okay. It helps if I have it public for you guys, right? You know, I can't be good at everything, okay? Like,
I'm a marketer. I completely understand that.